Welcome to today's deep dive. It is really great to have you with us.
Yeah, thrilled to be diving into this one.
So today we're basically dismantling a deeply ingrained educational paradigm. I mean, if you look at the standard metrics of a child's success, society almost universally points to the exact same handful of indicators, right?
Flawless GPA.
Right, perfectly executed homework, a transcript just filled with straight A's. We've essentially conditioned ourselves to view cognitive ability measured strictly on paper as the ultimate gold standard of development.
Which is, frankly, a remarkably narrow framework when you consider the actual complexity of adult life.
Yeah.
I mean, we end up measuring potential almost entirely by a student's ability to retain and regurgitate curated information within a highly structured environment.
And that is exactly what we are challenging today. So for you listening, we are unpacking a rather profound framework proposed by the president of Harvard University. And the core argument here is that the experiences that actually dictate the trajectory of a child's life, they do not happen within the four walls of a classroom.
No, they happen in the messy, unpredictable real world.
Exactly. So our mission today is to explore 5 highly specific real-world environments recommended in this framework. These are places that cultivate a holistic worldview.
Places that teach children the kind of resilience and ambition that, quite honestly, memorizing 100 textbooks simply cannot touch.
It's a fascinating pivot, really, from academic rigor to experiential intelligence.
It is. The underlying philosophy here completely shifts the focus. It moves away from what a child is learning to who that child is fundamentally becoming.
Right, and to really ground this, there's a narrative within the source material that perfectly captures the danger of hyper-focusing on metrics.
Oh, the mother's story. Yeah, this is a powerful one.
It really is. So it involves a mother observing her highly achieving child. And by all conventional standards, this kid was flawless.
Right, delivering perfect report cards.
Never caused trouble, played the academic game exactly as he was supposed to. But the mother noticed this. I mean, it's pretty chilling detail. She described his eyes as completely empty.
Empty, yeah.
He had mastered the mechanics of schooling, but his internal drive, his actual curiosity about the world around him was entirely extinguished.
That concept of empty eyes is a devastating critique of how we often structure education.
Mm-hmm.
Because when a child learns to simply deliver the expected result for an external reward,
like a grade
or parental approval, the internal engine just stalls. They stop asking why, because the system only requires them to know what.
The curiosity is basically replaced by compliance.
Precisely. And compliance doesn't change the world.
Right. So the mother recognizes this apathy, and she executes a complete tactical shift. She doesn't hire a tutor. She doesn't buy more advanced workbooks.
Which is what most people would do.
Exactly. Instead, she pulls him out of his routine and takes him on a localized trip. They ride a high-speed train, they walk along the coastline, and they wander through a university campus.
And the transformation is reportedly instantaneous.
It is. This totally apathetic kid suddenly starts asking profound, self-directed questions. He wants to know why the university is so massive. And more importantly, he asks, what do I have to do to study here?
And that physical movement translated directly into cognitive momentum.
Yeah.
Because the textbook is static, right?
Yeah.
It provides answers to questions a child hasn't even organically formulated yet.
Right. They don't even care about the answer yet.
Exactly. But the real world presents scale, complexity, immediate sensory feedback. It forces the brain out of a passive reception mode into an active inquiry mode.
Which brings us to a proverb that really anchors this entire deep dive. It goes, reading 10,000 books is not as good as traveling 10,000 miles.
That's the core philosophy right there. Theoretical knowledge is foundational, absolutely. But experiential knowledge is what actually contextualizes those theories into a functional worldview.
Theory without context just remains abstract.
Completely. When you take a child out of the classroom, you are essentially providing the 3D architecture for the 2D information they've been absorbing.
Okay, so let's apply this practically for the listener. The Harvard framework identifies 5 specific environments to catalyze this kind of development. And I have to say, as a parent navigating all this pressure, the first one on the list genuinely caught me off guard.
I think it catches a lot of adults off guard.
Because I tend to view it as the total opposite of education. That environment is the amusement park.
It absolutely defies the traditional academic instinct.
Totally.
We're programmed to look for environments with clear pedagogical value, Historical sites, libraries.
Right, because my adult brain looks at the theme park and I just see sheer chaos. I see massive crowds, overpriced food, and a complete lack of structured learning.
It feels like an indulgence.
Exactly. It feels like a waste of money rather than a developmental tool. But the psychological argument the president makes here completely reframes that experience.
It does. Because for a child, an amusement park isn't just a place with rides. It is a meticulously designed ecosystem of pure joy. The freedom to run, the adrenaline, the uninhibited laughter, they actually create a profound sense of psychological safety and emotional stability.
The framework draws a brilliant parallel here that I think adults can immediately grasp. It equates the feeling of deep, uninhibited joy a child experiences in that environment to the feeling of security an adult derives from financial independence.
Right? Owning a home, having a reliable career.
I had to sit with that analogy for a minute when I first read it. The idea that the peace of mind I get from having an emergency fund or paying off a mortgage is neurologically similar to the peace of mind a kid gets from just running wild on a Saturday afternoon at a theme park.
It's a massive shift in how we view utility.
It really is.
Because joy is the currency of childhood security. For an adult, material security builds the foundation from which we take risks. But for a child, a reservoir of pure, safe, happy memories builds their foundation. These aren't just fleeting moments of dopamine, they are structural. The framework actually refers to this as building an emotional shield.
Okay, but I want to challenge that slightly because if you are listening to this as a parent or a mentor, you might be thinking, couldn't an argument be made that constant trips to an amusement park just build a tolerance for instant gratification?
That's a fair question.
I mean, how does riding a roller coaster actually translate into an emotional shield against real-world adversity?
Well, that distinction is crucial. It is not about constant indulgence or avoiding discipline. It is about establishing a highly robust emotional baseline.
Okay.
When a child has a deep, visceral understanding of what safety and profound happiness feel like, it fosters an underlying optimism.
I see.
Resilience isn't just about enduring pain. It is about having a psychological safe harbor to return to. If their baseline is built on joyful memories, a subsequent failure, like a bad grade or a social rejection, doesn't fundamentally destroy their worldview. They have the emotional armor to absorb the blow and bounce back.
Because they know the world is also capable of providing immense joy.
Exactly.
That reframes the entire experience for me. You aren't just buying a ticket for a ride, you are actively funding their psychological resilience.
It's an investment in their emotional armor.
But once that emotional baseline is established, you have to direct that energy. You have to ignite the intellect. And that leads us to the second environment in the framework, which is science museums.
Right. Moving from emotional security to intellectual ignition. This addresses a very specific developmental window.
We all know that phase. Every kid goes through a period where their imagination is entirely unbound.
Building spaceships out of cardboard boxes.
Yes. They want to be inventors, astronauts, engineers. But as they progress through standardized schooling, that unbound imagination often gets pruned back.
Significantly pruned back.
The focus shifts to memorizing established facts rather than imagining new possibilities. So how do we sustain that why phase?
Well, the Science Museum acts as a counterweight to that pruning process because it bridges the gap between abstract imagination and tangible reality. Think about it. In a classroom, children are taught the results of science. They memorize the formulas that have already been proven. But in a science museum, they are exposed to the process of science.
Yes. And the source material makes a great point about validating their imagination.
Right.
When you walk a kid through an exhibit and they're looking at a massive jet engine or an early computer or a complex piece of medical technology, they are looking at physical proof that human effort can turn a crazy idea into reality.
It's right there in front of them.
Every single world-changing invention sitting in that museum was once just a fleeting thought in someone's head, much like those cardboard spaceships they build in the living room.
It provides concrete validation that the adult world isn't just about conforming to pre-existing rules. It demonstrates that the world is malleable.
I love that word, malleable.
If you apply effort and rigorous thought to your imagination, you can actually manipulate reality and create something new. That sustains the why phase.
It encourages them to look at the world not as a finished product they just have to accept, but as an ongoing project they can contribute to.
Exactly. If you think about your own experiences taking a child to a place like that, you see the gears turning differently than they do over a worksheet.
Oh, completely.
They stop asking, what is the answer? And they start asking, how do they build this?
It's a total shift. Now, human innovation is just one half of the equation here. The framework immediately balances this by pushing kids into the exact opposite environment to cultivate a completely different virtue.
Right.
So I'm going to group the third and fifth locations together because they create such a brilliant contrast between nature and society. We're saving the fourth location for the climax.
Good idea.
So the third recommendation is travel. Specifically, getting out into raw, expansive nature. And as a parent, I have to groan good-naturedly here because traveling with kids is exhausting.
It's a logistical nightmare.
The delayed flights, the heavy luggage, the sheer chaos. You really find yourself asking, what is the actual payoff here? But the explicit goal mentioned in the framework isn't just to learn geography, it's to teach humility.
Which is a remarkably difficult virtue to teach in a curated environment.
Yeah.
When a child's entire world consists of their house, their classroom, and their local neighborhood, it is very easy for them to develop a center of the universe syndrome.
Because the environment literally revolves around them, their schedule, their meals, their grades.
Which naturally breeds a certain level of entitlement. But contrast that with the physical experience of standing at the base of a towering mountain range.
Or looking out over an ocean where the water just vanishes into the horizon.
The framework highlights the realization that hits a child in that moment. They realize, we are tiny, but the world is vast.
You cannot simulate that kind of sensory scale in a textbook.
No, you can't. And that physical sensation of smallness is highly developmental. It isn't meant to diminish the child's self-worth. It's meant to contextualize it.
Right.
When a child viscerally understands the sheer scale and ancient nature of the physical world, it shatters that curated bubble. It broadens their vision immensely.
A child who has been humbled by the vastness of nature approaches learning and eventually their career with a sense of awe and participation rather than ego and entitlement.
It grounds them. And
Yeah.
frankly, those grueling logistics of travel you mentioned, the exhaustion, the delays, that builds a practical grit that complements the awe.
That's a great point. But while nature humbles you through sheer physical scale, the framework introduces another environment that humbles you through human density. And this is location number 5.
This one is fascinating.
It is perhaps the most unconventional recommendation on the list: public transportation.
Right.
We're talking bustling train stations, crowded bus terminals, airport waiting areas. I was so surprised to see these mundane spots on the Harvard president's list.
It is a brilliant inclusion because it acts as the ultimate sociological petri dish.
I love the way you phrased that earlier when we were reviewing the material, the idea of a social simulation.
Yes. Because if you think about it, a classroom is a highly artificially curated environment. You put 20 kids of the exact same age from roughly the same geographic and socioeconomic background into a room, and you enforce a strict set of behavioral rules, which is not how the actual world operates, not at all.
No.
A subway station strips away all of that curation. It exposes a child to raw human diversity and the unvarnished realities of society. They're suddenly sharing space with businessmen reviewing documents, nurses coming off a 12-hour shift, laborers carrying tools.
People of different cultures and ages. It is an unfiltered cross-section of humanity.
And there are incredibly specific values absorbed in these mundane environments. The framework points out the patience of waiting, for one.
Oh, definitely.
In an era where everything from entertainment to food delivery is instantly available, standing on a platform waiting for a delayed train is a profound lesson in frustration tolerance. It teaches them to take the future seriously. But the deeper lesson here, the one that really struck me, empathy. Empathy driven by observing invisible labor. This is a crucial developmental milestone.
Expand on that a bit.
Well, it teaches a child that the daily conveniences they take for granted, the fact that the bus arrives, the terminal is relatively clean, the transit system functions, these are entirely powered by the unseen efforts of countless behind-the-scenes workers.
You see the maintenance crews, the transit operators, the ticket agents. It pulls back the curtain on society.
Exactly.
As a parent, pointing out these roles to a child fundamentally alters their class consciousness. It shifts them away from only respecting prestigious white-collar professions and plants a deep seed of respect for the collective, often gritty human human effort that keeps the world turning.
Nature shows them the scale of the earth, and public transit shows them the scale of human effort. Both environments serve to decenter the child and integrate them into a much larger, interconnected system.
Which is just a brilliant synthesis. And this brings us to location number 4, the one we saved for last, because I consider it the absolute climax of this entire educational philosophy.
The turning point.
Exactly. If we want to move completely away from the obsession with grades and metrics, we have to look at this environment. The source material literally refers to this specific location as a turning point in life.
And this addresses the single most common friction point in modern parenting, which is the crisis of motivation.
The endless cycle of nagging. If you are listening to this, you know the exhaustion of trying to force motivation.
Oh, yes.
Telling a child to study hard, do your homework, prepare for the test 100 times over, and it almost always yields diminishing returns.
It creates resistance.
Right, because you are constantly pushing them from behind.
It fails because, to the child's mind, study hard is an instruction totally devoid of a compelling destination. You are demanding they endure the micro stress of daily academic labor without providing a macro vision of what that labor purchases.
Which is why the Harvard president's ultimate strategic hack is so elegant. The advice is simply this: physically place them in the environment of the next academic tier.
Show them the next level.
Yeah. Yes. If you have a primary school student, take them to walk around a vibrant high school. If you have a high schooler, take them to walk through the campus of a top-tier university long before their exams.
Don't nag them about their grades. Just drop them into this space.
Right. It is the ultimate exercise in future self-visualization. It synthesizes goal setting in a way that verbal instructions never could.
When a teenager walks onto a prestigious university campus, they are hit with a sensory wave of independence and intellectual energy.
They see the vast libraries, the historic architecture.
The students engage in passionate debates on the lawn. They see freedom.
That is the key word, freedom. It completely reframes the narrative of, why am I learning this?
Suddenly it clicks.
They realize they aren't memorizing algebra just to satisfy a teacher they might not even like or to avoid a lecture from their parents. They're studying to earn the right to stand in this dream environment.
It transforms the motivation from extrinsic to intrinsic.
Precisely. You shift from pushing a boulder up a hill to being pulled forward by a magnet.
The university environment acts as that magnet. The student begins working for their own future self. They want access to that campus, that intellectual community, that lifestyle.
And when the motivation becomes self-driven, the obsession with the daily grade dissipates. It is replaced by a holistic drive toward a life goal.
It goes right back to the anecdote we started with, the child with the empty eyes.
Right.
He didn't find his spark because his mother yelled at him to study harder. He found his spark because he stood on a university campus and asked, what do I have to do to study here?
He asked for the work, he demanded the challenge because he finally saw the destination.
Exactly.
So if we pull all of these threads together, the overarching vision for you as a listener is crystal clear. Whether you are actively raising children, mentoring a younger relative, or just observing the educational landscape, we have to recognize the limitations of the four-walled classroom.
Visionary development isn't about ensuring every single worksheet is flawless at the expense of a child's joy or curiosity.
It is about intentionally engineering their environment. It is using the uninhibited play of an amusement park to build an emotional baseline of resilience.
It's utilizing the tangibility of a science museum to prove that imagination has real-world value.
It is leaning on the vastness of nature to instill deep humility and the raw reality of public transportation to cultivate genuine empathy.
And ultimately, it is about using the visual power of a university to spark intrinsic ambition.
And I think it's important to note, implementing this doesn't require massive financial resources or grand months-long expeditions.
Not at all. The philosophy is about intentionality. A thoughtful conversation on a crowded city bus or a Saturday morning spent examining an engine block at a free local museum can profoundly alter a young person's trajectory.
Provided you are guiding them to look past the surface and see the underlying mechanics of the world.
It entirely changes how you view a weekend errand. You aren't just killing time, you are providing the context they need to understand their own potential.
It really is a powerful shift in perspective. Well, thank you for joining us on this deep dive. We've spent our time today analyzing how these specific physical environments shape a child's ambition and worldview. But we want to leave you with a final provocative thought regarding your own trajectory.
Right, because this applies to adults too.
Exactly. We are all prone to getting stuck in our own metric-driven routines. If stepping out of the classroom is the key to reigniting a child's sense of wonder and resilience, what comfortable four-walled routines are you currently trapped in?
What environments are you forgetting to expose yourself to?
Just to keep your own eyes from going empty, something to ponder as you navigate your week. We'll catch you on the next deep dive.